Farmer killed in motorcycle crash in Bwalk. The Bwalk police in St. Catherine have launched an investigation into a collision that resulted in the death of a 30-year-old farmer on Friday. The deceased has been identified as Tandili Henry, a farmer of Church Road, Bwalk, St. Catherine. Reports are that about 7:30 p.m., Henry was riding a motorcycle in Magazine Lane, Bwalk, when he reportedly lost control of the vehicle, which slammed into a 2013 Toyota Probox motor vehicle that was parked on the roadway. The motor car and the motorcycle, which were reportedly not affixed with a registration plate, were extensively damaged. Henry was assisted to the Spanish Town Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Portmore man gets over 17 years for fatal stoning of uncle during family dispute. A Portmore St. Catherine man who pelted his uncle with stones during a family dispute, causing his death, was on Friday sentenced to 17 years and 5 months in prison for murder. Heron Douglas was found guilty by a jury in the St. Catherine Circuit Court in March and was sentenced on Friday by presiding judge Justice Dale Palmer. Douglas was convicted for the murder of his uncle, Verrell Douglas. The coroner evidence that in 2010, Heron was involved in a family dispute in Reed's Bend, Brayton, Portmore, St. Catherine, during which he was hurt with stones that struck his uncle in the head. The injured man was assisted to hospital, where he later died following the injuries he sustained. An investigation was launched by the Portmore police, which led to Heron Douglas being arrested and charged with murder. Housing Agency to implement amnesty for persons with outstanding balances. The Housing Agency of Jamaica (HAJ) is to implement an amnesty for persons with outstanding balances under $150,000, giving them the opportunity to receive their land titles. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness made the announcement during a land titling ceremony in Westmoreland. He noted that some titles remain unissued despite small balances, many dating back years. Dr. Holness stated that title ownership is more than a legal formality. It opened doors to wealth creation and financial empowerment.
I have said to the chairman, examine your database for all the titles that are under $150,000 outstanding. And we are going to give an amnesty. So that will, I am certain, give a significant number of Jamaicans access to their titles. And I also use this platform to say to others who owe over the 150, come in and start paying. Let us settle this and get all the titles out there into your hands. You know why? Because the title gives you access to financing. Once you have the title, you can go to your bank and get a loan and start a business. It helps, but it gives you the security. So that's one thing we're going to do to support our ambitious Jamaicans, our deserving Jamaicans who want to have their title.
Cruel irony. The granddaughter of a surgeon who performed Jamaica's first kidney transplant, 25-year-old Taylor Douglas, says her family never imagined that decades later, she, her father, and her uncle would all need the very surgery her grandfather, Professor Lawson Douglas, pioneered locally. Taylor revealed that both she and her uncle were diagnosed with end-stage renal failure in 2022, while her father had been living with the condition since she was about 3 years old. Her uncle received a kidney transplant earlier this year, and her father has already undergone 2 transplants. Now facing her own medical battle, she launched a GoFundMe campaign to help cover the cost of her surgery. Given her age and her family's deep connection to the history of the kidney care in Jamaica, Taylor told reporters that the diagnosis was both ironic and heartbreaking. Everyone was very shocked. I think my dad took it to heart. He definitely blamed himself, and he doesn't blame himself for me being sick, which I keep having to remind him and myself that it's not anybody's fault. Things happen, and you can't control certain things. You can't control what time or day this is going to happen. It has been assumed that my great-grandfather, my father's father, died of kidney complications, and I think that was a push for my grandfather to really go and do almost all the things he did. They didn't really know at the time that it was genetic. We still don't know if it's genetic, but we're assuming that it is because of how many people in my family have kidney issues. We didn't know at the time because it skipped my grandfather's generation completely. Nobody in his section of the generation pool got any kind of kidney disease until my dad, so it wasn't really something that was expected, she told reporters. End-stage renal failure is the final stage of chronic kidney disease, during which the kidneys can no longer function adequately to sustain life. Without treatment, such as dialysis or a kidney transplant, the disease is fatal. The condition is common in Jamaica, with an estimated 1 in 7 people having the diagnosis. Professor Douglas performed the country's first kidney transplant, a groundbreaking surgery at the time of the mark a new era in Caribbean medicine in 1970 at Kingston Public Hospital. He also led the first living donor transplant, along with his colleague Professor George Nicholson, at the University Hospital of the West Indies in 1987. The transplant program continued until 2001, with a few live donors procedures taking place at KPH between 2021 and 2025. Transplant programs continue to exist at UHWI and Cornwall Regional Hospital in collaboration with international partners. However, Taylor noted that many Jamaicans, like her uncle, often seek donors overseas when faced with issues finding donors locally, and she intends to do the same. A final year student at the University of the West Indies pursuing a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology and 2 minors at the same time of her diagnosis, Taylor said her entire world turned upside down when she received the news. Unfortunately, when it happened, everything happened so fast where my health was concerned, so I wasn't able to graduate that year, and I missed quite a few of my classes that I needed to complete my degree. That was really heartbreaking because I just graduated last year. To go from I'm only having 1 year left to I'm spending almost 6 years at university was a struggle, she told reporters. Taylor disclosed that her current treatment regime includes dialysis 3 times a week, sessions that often leave her drowsy and struggling to stay alert in class. She said the rigid dialysis schedule has also taken a toll on her social life as her treatments extended into the weekend, leaving little time or energy for social activities. Despite the challenges, the young woman pushed through to complete her undergrad degree and now hopes to pursue a master's in psychology. However, balancing graduate studies with dialysis and her role as an assistant at the Jamaica Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals would push her into overdrive. I would love a transplant. I really stay on dialysis for my entire life. It is not a very good quality of life with dialysis 3 times a week. I have to take time off from work to go to dialysis, and sometimes, if I'm not careful, I can't go maybe a day or two out of the week because I'm just that exhausted after dialysis. I can barely get out of my bed the next day, stated the 25-year-old. I have some offers for some donors through my friends because my family can't donate, but unfortunately, they are not a match for me, so I have to go elsewhere, which, of course, is New York, she explained. Taylor said her family discovered a program that helped match kidney donors with recipients by guaranteeing a kidney in exchange for a donation. She said she will need US $150,000 to cover costs of a transplant. The funds will go towards necessary medical tests to qualify for various donors and recipient registries, travel and accommodation for the procedure, as well as post-surgery medication. Faced with the steep expenses, she launched a GoFundMe campaign to support Taylor's fight against renal failure to help offset the medical cost. At the time of publication, she had raised 20,937 US. It's going slowly but surely. I'm forever grateful to those persons who have donated, stated Taylor. However, she noted that she still has a long way to go before she can afford the life-saving transplant and is appealing to Jamaicans for support. It would change my life drastically. I could go back to school and pursue my master's. I could spend time with my friends the way I've loved to, volunteer and do things I'm passionate about, even travel, if I could afford it. I want to be out in the world. It's not that I'm not living now, it's just restricted, she explained. She also issued a heartfelt plea to the government to build out a national transplant program and increase public education to encourage organ donors so that other Jamaicans in need can have easy access to the organ required for a better quality of life. Not everyone can afford to travel overseas. I've seen people of all ages, children and adults, die well on dialysis. It's so important that people you're counting on to help build the economy are as happy and healthy as possible, and access to transplant is a critical part of that, she noted. To subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.